With the group stage complete, it is time for our knockout predictions for the 2023 AFC Asian Cup. Guys, Matty G back here with you on Football with Flags. Thanks so much for joining us. Let's get to it. On to the first matchup of the round of 16. We have China taking on UAE, and China did get bumped out in the quarterfinal in 2019, and it's still a solid run for them in my opinion. I think they really need to start fast in this game. They don't want to have to chase it. If they're behind against UAE, I think that would be very difficult for them. I believe both sides need to be very clinical with their chances. Good opportunities could be far and few between. But for UAE, remember, they were the host in 2019, made a run to the semifinal. Ali Makout had 4 goals for them in that tournament. I think they're going to have a lot of pressure on them to perform well and make another deep run in this competition. I certainly could see this game going into extra time or penalties if it stays close and it's very low scoring at the beginning. But I'm actually going to take China to take down UAE in this first matchup. Moving on to Japan and Syria. And Japan have been in superb form. A lot of great results recently, along with a winning streak as well. I definitely think they could control a good portion of this game, especially the tempo. But for Syria, remember, they had a really solid run against Australia in 2019 during their group stage. Lost 3-2. I don't think they need to get into a scoring battle with Japan in this one. I think Japan could be too clinical for Syria to keep up with, but I definitely think Ibrahim Alma, their goalkeeper, is going to have a big day. Omar and others up top for Syria are going to have to be clinical with their chances. Omar's got 21 goals for his country, but at the end of the day, I think Japan will be too much. Moving on, we have Australia taking on Vietnam, and both of these sides got bumped out in the quarterfinals in 2019. Australia really struggled to finish chances in front of goal. They didn't score a single goal in the run of play in their 2 knockout stage games in the last edition, but both sides did wind up winning their first knockout stage game in penalties, Vietnam defeating Jordan, meanwhile Australia defeating Uzbekistan. I definitely think Australia's been in better form. They got to the round of 16 in the World Cup. They've had some decent results in 2023. I think Vietnam are really going to have to try and take the lead, or at least keep this game 0-0 through the half into the second half if they want a shot. I think they have the chance to take the lead, but in the end, I've got Australia advancing. Next up, we have Saudi Arabia taking on Bahrain, and both of these sides lost out in the round of 16 in 2019. Saudi Arabia to Japan. Meanwhile, Bahrain did take South Korea to extra time, but wound up losing, unfortunately, in the next 30. Keep an eye out for these players named Salim Al-Dasari for Saudi Arabia, 22 goals for his country, and Saleh Al-Sheri, who's got 15 goals as well. As for Bahrain, Mohamed Marhoun with 13 goals and Ali Maidan with 11 goals. I think each of these 4 players could be pivotal for their side's chances of advancing. I think Bahrain could potentially take this game to extra time as well, but in the end, I've got Saudi Arabia just too much to handle. Iran and Oman are next, and these two actually met in the round of 16 in the 2019 edition. Iran winning that game 2-0. They outshot Oman 12-6. Oman, unfortunately, just had 2 shots on goal. They're going to have to be better in the final third if they want a better opportunity this time around. I think Iran controls this game. They really just don't need to make any big mistakes in possession or in their own half. I think Oman need to stay compact, use their width when they look to counter, and just trying to kind of breathe and take some pressure off of their defense. But in the end, I think Iran will be too much, as they'll be victorious. Up next, we have South Korea taking on Iraq, and both of these sides wound up falling short to Qatar in their knockout stage fixtures in 2019. Iraq in the round of 16, of course, and South Korea in the quarterfinal. Big question for me is how much can Son take over this tournament for South Korea? There's certainly a side that can make a deep run, and I think farther than a quarterfinal. But remember, Iraq, with that fabulous run in 2007, they have the capability to make a deep run as well. This is the type of game I would love to see both sides advance, because they're both very talented and have capabilities of making a strong run in these knockout stages. But for me, I'm actually going to go ahead and take Iraq with the upset over South Korea. Now on to Qatar versus Jordan, and remember, we cannot forget the fabulous run that Qatar made in the knockout stages with the teams that they beat as well. A very impressive run in 2019 to be defending champs. Obviously, though, they have a target on their back now. Almoez Ali had 9 goals and led the way through the entire competition for Qatar. As for Jordan, they got to the round of 16. They actually won their group and beat Australia, but then come out and have a draw against Palestine as well. I think some of that inconsistent play and some of their results could play a factor in this. I think they'll have a really good group stage, but I do believe Qatar, the defending champs, take down Jordan in this opening round. Last round of 16 matchup, we have Uzbekistan going up against Kyrgyzstan, and both sides lost out in the round of 16 in the 2019 edition. Eldor Shomurodov had 4 goals in that 2019 campaign for Uzbekistan. This is the type of game I feel like could go into extra time or penalties. Remember, Kyrgyzstan lost in extra time to UAE in the last edition. They actually tied the game twice before finally losing out 3-2. Obviously, I know they were disappointed, but that was Kyrgyzstan's first appearance in 2019 of this Asian Cup. So again, I think they'd be proud to certainly get back to the round of 16 and with the shot and maybe making it to their first ever quarterfinal. But at the end of the day, I do have Uzbekistan closing it out. So there we have it, an updated look at our 8 quarterfinalists in this bracket. And let's not waste any more time. Let's get to the predictions for this next round. First quarterfinal, we have China taking on Japan. And remember, China have not made it to a semifinal since 2004, a long time, 20 years now. These two sides met in January of 2022 in a World Cup qualifier. Japan wound up winning that game 2-0. Asako and Ito each scored goals. Wu Li had a yellow card for China. He's going to have to play an important part in this contest for this side to be successful again. Japan obviously seeking another run to the final. They outshot China in that game, in that World Cup qualifier, 16-1. I think Japan will dominate this game. It's just a matter of being clinical, finishing their chances, and not getting exploited on the break from China. I think China's magical run ends here, and I've got Japan moving on. Next, we have Australia taking on Saudi Arabia, and they had a couple of World Cup qualifiers in 2021 and 2022. First ended in a 0-0 draw in Australia, and the second went to Saudi Arabia with a 1-0 victory as Al Dasari with the goal. Hopefully this game is not decided by penalties. Obviously, I think it could go into extra time, but we'll have to wait and see. Keep an eye out for Matthew Leckie for the Socceroos. He's got 14 goals for his country. I think he could play a pivotal part in a game like this. Again, both sides had a good amount of shots in their last 2 meetings, but not many on target from either side. They're going to have to take care of that. Just at least put more on frame, make the goalkeepers work. Obviously, both sides are going to have to be smart in possession as well, especially in their own half, because I could definitely see both of these sides taking advantage of some mistakes and turnovers and looking to try and quickly counter off of them. But at the end of the day, I think this game hopefully will have goals from both sides, but I'm going to have Australia taking the victory. Iran and Iraq are up next, and Iran has had Iraq's number lately, especially in their last 3 meetings. They've won all 3 of them, including a 3-0 win for Iran, holding Iraq just to 2 shots total in that contest. I think Sadar Azmoun, who had 4 goals in 2019, could be a pivotal part of this type of game. And again, Iran looking to try and get back to another semifinal. We know Mehdi Taremi has scored in their last 2 encounters with Iraq. I think at the end of the day, Iraq, again, an impressive run to get to this point, but Iran may be too much for them to handle. I've got Iran going back to another semifinal. Last quarterfinal matchup, we have Qatar taking on Uzbekistan. And Uzbekistan have won the last 3 meetings, but it's been quite a while, a handful of years or so since these two last met. And Qatar obviously are a different team. Of course, they are the defending champs from 4 years ago. We'll have to wait and see if they can make it back to another semifinal. I think chances are going to be hard to come by in this game. I think it could be a good defensive battle. Remember, Uzbekistan made a run to a semifinal in 2011. Obviously, they would love to make it back. Can Shomurodov or others be a game changer for this side? And another big question is, can Afif or Ali for Qatar make a big difference? Remember, Afif had 10 assists in the Asian Cup of 2019, so we'll have to see if he can, be another big game changer as well. But again, I think this will be a low-scoring battle, and at the end of the day, I've got Qatar advancing to the semifinals. From 16 now down to 4, let's see which 2 teams will head to the final. Samurai Blue versus the Socceroos. It's Japan versus Australia. Remember, Japan's most recent title in 2011. Australia won it all in 2015. First time these 2 teams ever met was in 1956, I believe, during the Olympics. Australia winning that game 2-0. In their most recent meeting, Japan won that 2-0 back in 2022. Matoma had 2 goals in that game, but he did not score until the 89th minute and in stoppage time. I think we could see a very similar game, 0-0, very tight. A lot of good opportunities from both sides. We've talked about how clinical Japan can be. I think Australia will need to step their game up a little bit with that as well, because we know Japan can score both in possession and on the run with space in front of them as well. Very, very good in the final third. Japan doubled Australia's shot total in that most recent fixture in that 2-0 win. Australia played a 4-4-2 in that game, Japan in a 4-1-4-1, for any of those curious of what they might come out as. But at the end of the day, guys, I'm going to take Japan. I just think they've been in too good a form recently. I think they'll continue that through this tournament. I've got them headed to the final. Next semifinal, of course, Iran versus Qatar, and 2 very interesting storylines. Obviously, Qatar, the most recent champions, as we've talked about. It's been a long time since Iran won this thing, all the way back to 1976. Obviously, they are starving for another title. These 2 teams played in October earlier this year. Iran won that game 4-0, pretty much just dominated throughout the entire 90 minutes, outshot Qatar 21-2. Now, again, they could have had different rosters or at least different starting lineups. But again, still, I think a statement type of victory. I think Qatar is obviously going to be feeling the pressure, knowing they're defending champs, trying to get back to the final. Iran, so desperate, wanting to get back to a final with an opportunity to win their first title in decades. Really, at the end of the day, I think this could be too much for Qatar. I think Iran know what's in front of them, especially if they get to this point in the tournament. I like Iran to advance and head to the final. Well, guys, the bracket is almost full, and we've got one more game to pick. But before we get to that, make sure you guys let us know down in the comments section who you're rooting for, what your own predictions are for this entire competition. We love engaging with you guys in that conversation, so please let us know down in the comments your own opinion about our predictions, who you're rooting for, anything like that. We'd love to hear from you guys. So without further ado, let's get to this final prediction. 2 of the highest ranked teams in all of Asia, it's Japan and Iran. These 2 sides met in the 2019 semifinal of this tournament. Japan wound up winning 3-0, but Iran did outshoot them 11-7. It's still just a notch in the belt for Japan, though, of how clinical they can be in the final third. Iran are going to have to defend well. Biranvand, their goalkeeper, is going to have a big day. He's got a lot of experience, and he certainly could have a great 90 minutes or extra time and penalties if it comes down to it. But again, Japan are so clinical in front of goal, and again, they do so well in possession with their movement off the ball, as well as their ability to counterattack and make turnovers as well. I think this would be a great final between these 2 sides. I think it'd be much more competitive than 3-0, the way it was in the semifinal 4 years ago. But let's go back to the bracket to see who we picked. And the winner for our 2023 predictions is Japan. Guys, I think they've just got a little something extra that most other teams in this tournament don't. And again, we go back to their ability to finish in front of goal, to be clinical. They're so technical, such a good side in possession, and very quick. And again, have great movement off the ball. I think as long as they stay strong defensively, don't concede too many goals, don't fall behind in too many games, that Japan are definitely poised to make a deep run in this tournament and possibly win it all. Again, I think that there were a lot of other teams we considered possibly winning this tournament, but I think the way it sets up, Japan could have a very good, strong run, at least to a semifinal, if not potentially all the way, and win this entire thing. Guys, as always, thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed today's video. Again, remember, make sure you let us know down in the comments section your own predictions, thoughts, anything as well down there. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't already done so. And remember, we've got predictions for the AFCON tournament coming up as well, along with plenty of other international competition coming up in the next 6-7 months. So guys, make sure you stay tuned and stick with us. Hope you all have a blessed day, and we will see you soon. Peace.